All right, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Hope you are a member of SIFTD and seeing this real time. $50 a year, $5 a month if you would prefer to pay as you go. If not, you're watching on YouTube a week late, and we welcome you. So let's get into the questions. Our first question from SIFTD comes from Derek D111. What do you see third-party publishers doing if they want to release games on both PS4 and Xbox Scorpio? If they want to take full advantage of Scorpio's power, releasing the same game on both systems won't be as easy. Do you see Sony upgrading its hardware again in 2018 to better compete with Scorpio? No, I don't. I think that Scorpio is going to have the same rules as PS4 Pro. So every game that is made for PS4 Pro has to be fully backward compatible on the regular PS4. Every game on Scorpio hasn't been announced yet, but I believe will have to be backward compatible on Xbox One. So what I think that means is that games will have to run at, let's just call it 1080p, 60 frames a second. They can be upscaled to 4K, 240 frames a second or whatever the hell that would be. But the game is going to actually have both on the disc. The hardware is going to know, what file to play. So a 1080p, hardware, an Xbox One or a PS4 is going to look for the file that runs on the PS4, Xbox One. The Scorpio and the PS4 Pro are going to realize that there's better, faster content and pick that up. Sort of like a Blu-ray player. If you put a standard def DVD in there, it will play it. It knows, to find that file. So I think that's what you're going to see. I don't think that's a problem. I think that very few games will support Xbox One Scorpio at launch. I think the games that support PS4 Pro will definitely support Scorpio. And you know what? They may not run in 4K. 4K is 8 million pixels. They might run, and 1080p is 2 million pixels. But the point is they'll look sharper on your 4K display. The PS4 Pro isn't a 4K box. It's a high definition, high dynamic range. So again, yes, games are going to be better, but they're going to run backward compatible. I am sure of it. Microsoft is not replacing the Xbox One. They're upgrading the Xbox One. So no, Sony's not going to come up with more hardware in 2018. I think you get the PS5 in 2019, maybe 2020. I think you get the Xbox 2 in 2020. I think you're going to get every 3 year new consoles, and they're going to be half a step better than the one before. And the new console software will be backward compatible to the immediately prior version. I think that's going to be the pattern forever. So that's what I think. I'm often wrong, never in doubt. Next question from SIFTD from Shut Up. Dear Pack, we know Nintendo historically sells consoles at a profit. Is this the case with the Switch? The cost performance comparisons are not favorable, but if you look at Switch purely as a mobile device, do you think it fares a bit better? I don't know. I don't know what that tablet costs to make, so I'm really the wrong guy to ask. Every other part of the Switch looks really inexpensive to me. So the docking station and the Joy-Cons look super inexpensive to me. I don't know what it costs to make a tablet, but it strikes me that if you can buy an iPad mini for $349, Apple gives nothing away. So the Switch tablet probably costs no more than an iPad mini. My guess is $200 to make at most, and the rest of the components another $50. So they're probably pricing at $299 to break even. I think that's probably their plan, and I think they hope to come down in cost. I think Nintendo would have priced it at $249 if the bill of materials was lower. I don't think they're stupid, and I don't think they're greedy. So I think that they're doing the best they can to thrive in a competitive environment. But that tablet is expensive, and that's the component I just don't know what they cost. With so much glass being used in so many different devices, the component costs of things like the Switch are coming down. So Nintendo probably will catch up and be profitable on this thing, pretty wildly profitable within a year. But no, I think they're probably selling at break even to start, so good question. And if you look at it purely as a mobile device, all you're eliminating is a docking station. I mean, you still have to produce the most expensive part, which is the glass. So no, I think that it's a big ass handheld. I mean, that's what it is. So it's going to be more expensive than your handheld with a small screen. Our next question comes from SIFTD, from Nay OJD. What has happened in the industry in the last few years that has been the biggest surprise to you? What is something that you think gamers should keep an eye on for the future? I suppose the biggest surprise to me in the last few years is the rise of multiplayer gaming. I grew up playing single player games, and when I grew up, gaming was like reading, was like watching movies. You know, it was a solitary experience where you went to escape and you had fun and you could kind of withdraw. And I remember coming home after a hard day at work and just booting up my PlayStation and just playing Crash Bandicoot and doing or Tony Hawk. A fun game just to escape. And I was really surprised that multiplayer became the thing. It's still not for me. Like, I like co-op, you know, I like some multiplayer, but I'm not that competitive, and I'm sure it's because I'm old and slow reflexes. But that's been my biggest surprise, that it took off. And I think that it's been unhealthy for the industry, because I think that people buy less software when they play games all year round. And I think it's caused a shakeout, and the formerly purely single player companies like Atari, Midway, THQ are gone. So I think it's bad for gamers, because what we now have is shooter, 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 and sports games. And I think it's kind of, we've lost the single player game as an art form, where, you know, most of us still like them, but more people play multiplayer. So that's been my biggest surprise. What should gamers keep an eye on for the future? You know, probably the biggest change that's going to happen in the next 10 years is that we don't really need consoles. If Nintendo in 1985 was thinking about going from an arcade machine to the home today, they wouldn't even consider making a console. They would just say, let's put our games on mobile phones. Let's put our games on laptops and let you connect to your TV with a Fire TV stick or a Chromecast stick. So that, I think, is going to be the biggest advance in the next 10 years. So I think you see a doubling, tripling, quadrupling of sales of every game, because that game might be Psychonauts. You know, it doesn't have to be FIFA or Call of Duty. It might be Dishonored 4, you know, in 10 years. And those games are going to reach more people just because they can. So I think we're going to see a revolution in the games business, the way we saw in the movie business, when movies went from being just in the theaters to being on TV, to being on DVD, to being on demand, to being on Netflix. There's so many more ways to make money, that there's more money in the system to make better movies. And I think movies have gotten consistently better over the last 40 years. Games are going to get consistently better over the next 40 years. So, hope that's responsive. Last question this week from SIFTD, from Dimp Digital. Pac-Man, reports are suggesting that the paid download conversions of Super Mario Run are as low as you predicted. I actually don't remember what I predicted, so I'll go with that. It appears that Nintendo has left money on the table. Do you think its performance will alter Nintendo's mobile strategy in any way? Yeah, that's a good question. So you know, paid download conversions are somewhere between 2 and 10%. I mean, that's a reasonable estimate. 2 is kind of the normal number of people who pay for any game, you know, microtransactions. This is a pretty robust game. 10% is possible. I'm guessing they had 100 million downloads in December. There were 50 million the first week, so just being fair, 100 million the first month. It's still up there in the download charts. It's not #1, but it's top 10 in a lot of countries. So by the end of 2017, I wouldn't be surprised if they had 400 or 500 million downloads. As downloads grow, percentage conversion is going to drop, but they'll certainly convert 2%. And at 400 million downloads, that's 8 million paid. They might convert 10%, which would be 40 million paid, which is really a lot. But you're still talking about, somewhere between 80 and 400 million dollars of revenue. The problem with the model is if you want to spend $1,000 on Mario, you can't. You can spend 10. And that's leaving money on the table. So I think the right way to think about free-to-play games versus paid download, free-to-play is going to be a bell curve. So you're going to draw a bell curve, and the guys who spend absolutely nothing are at this end, and the guys who spend the most are at this end, And if you get the paying audience, so at one end is the dollar lifetime, the other end is the $5,000 guy who just has to buy everything. And the sweet spot's going to come out at some number, like for FIFA Ultimate Team, for example, that number's about $90, believe it or not, of all the people spending money. So if you cap it at 10, all the people who would spend more than 10 don't, because they don't have to. So if anything, I think it will change Nintendo's strategy to add things to the $10 paid download. I personally think the paywall is dumb. The $10 download is dumb. If you're going to give it away for the first 3 levels, give all levels away. Design the game where there's stuff that you can buy, whatever, butt stomps, power boosts, mushrooms to eat. There's a reason why the publishers who are used to selling you a $60 experience don't know how to make free to play, because it's a completely different model. So Nintendo has IP that we like, but they don't know how to cast it in a way that we want to continue to spend money. That's a skill that they don't have. And they can buy it, they can use DNA and partner with DNA and maybe design it, but it's easier said than done, or I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be making free-to-play games. I don't know how to do it, and you don't know how to do it. Imagine if Nintendo, instead of 1 game a year, made 10 games a month, because they probably have 1,500 titles between Game Boy Advance and DS and 3DS. Make 10 games a month for 2 years. And you know what? In 2 years, we have 240 games. Those games will download at $1 million or $2 million a month paid forever. They would be making hundreds of millions of dollars a month. But that's not in their DNA, pun intended. All right, fellow babies, that's it for this week's Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. If you're a SIFTD.net member, thank you for being a member. If not, you can join for $50 a year, $5 a month. We'd love to have you. Thanks again for joining us. See you next week.